In the previous lecture, we discussed neurophysiological basis of emotions. We understood that emotions are not merely psychological experiences. They involve the brain, autonomic nervous system, hormonal responses, and changes throughout the body. But there is still a very important question. If the basic biological mechanisms of emotion are present in all of us, why do people experience the same situation so differently? Why does one student become extremely anxious before an exam while another remains calm? Or why does one person take criticism very personally while another accepts it and moves on? And why do people express the same emotion in completely different ways? To understand this, we need to look beyond the brain. Today, we are going to discuss the remaining two determinants of emotions and emotional expressions. The first one is cognitive basis and the second, the sociocultural basis. So let's begin with cognition. Before understanding the cognitive basis, we need to understand one simple thing. Cognition means our mental processes involved in thinking, interpreting, remembering, judging, and understanding information. So when we talk about the cognitive basis of emotions, we are basically asking, how does our thinking influence what we feel? And this is extremely important because emotions are not determined only by what happens to us. They are also influenced by how we interpret what happens to us. Means, event same ho sakta hai, but if two people interpret that event differently, their emotional response may also be different. Same situation, different emotion. Let's take a very simple example. Imagine you receive a WhatsApp message from someone important to you. The message simply says, "We need to talk." That's it. Now imagine two people who receive the same message. First person thinks, "Oh my God, something is wrong. Maybe I've done something." Immediately, anxiety begins. Heart starts racing. That person starts thinking about every conversation that he had had. What did I say? Did I do something wrong? Now, if we see person 2 who receives the exact same message and he thinks, okay, maybe they want to discuss something important. So there's no anxiety. This message is same, the words are same, but completely different emotional responses. So let's understand why. Because the interpretation was different. This is the cognitive contribution to emotion. Our thoughts and emotions interact. So we can say that thoughts and emotions have a bi-directional relationship. Our thoughts can influence our emotions, but our emotions can also influence our thoughts. For example, when we are already anxious, we may interpret an otherwise neutral situation negatively. If a person doesn't reply to your message, when you are calm, you may think maybe they are busy. But when you are already anxious, the same situation may become, oh, they are ignoring me. Or something must have been wrong. Maybe they are angry with me. So sometimes our emotional state itself influences the way we think. One very useful way to understand this relationship is thought leads to emotion and emotion leads to behavior. Let's take an examination example. Let's understand one thought, I'm going to fail. What emotion is likely to follow? Anxiety. And that anxiety is going to produce poor concentration, overthinking, avoidance, and difficulty in recalling information. And this all will lead to ultimately poor performance. Now change this thought and make it, I have prepared well. I may not know everything, but I can at least do my best. The emotional response now will become confident or at least manageable anxiety, and behavior will change accordingly. You will see better concentration, more effort, better performance. So the situation of the exam has not at all changed. the interpretation of it has changed. And therefore, the emotional and behavioral response can change. This is why cognition is such an important determinant of emotional experience. As I use the word cognitive appraisal, let's understand this as well. Cognitive appraisal refers to the way an individual evaluates or interprets an event in relation to themselves. For example, imagine a professor says, "I want to see you after class." One student may interpret it as, "I'm in trouble." Another may think, "Maybe sir wants to give me some feedback." Another may think, "Maybe I have done well and sir wants to discuss my work." Here the external event is the same, but the appraisal is different. And therefore, the emotional response can also be different. So remember, event leads to interpretation or appraisal, and that leads to emotion, and emotion leads to behavior. And this brings us to an important application of cognitive factors, cognitive behavior therapy, or CBT as we call it. CBT is based on understanding that our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are closely interconnected. So when a person presents with anxiety, we don't simply tell the person, "Don't be anxious." Instead, we try to understand what is the person thinking, what are they expecting, what meaning are they giving to the situation. Are there unrealistic or unhelpful patterns of thinking? And by identifying and modifying these patterns, we may be able to influence emotional and behavioral responses. So cognition is not just a theoretical concept. It has a direct application in counseling, psychotherapy, and clinical practice. So far, we have understood that the brain and body contribute to our emotions, and our cognition influences how we interpret the situations. But there is one more important factor. Because even when people experience the same basic emotion, they may express it very differently. Why does one person cry openly when distressed, while another person remains completely silent? Why does one person express affection through words, while another expresses it through actions? To understand this, we need to look at the socio-cultural basis of emotions and emotional expressions. Now let us understand socio-cultural basis of emotions. Emotions have a strong biological and universal component. Human beings across cultures experience basic emotions such as happiness, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust. But the way these emotions are expressed, regulated, and socially interpreted can vary considerably between individuals and cultures. To put it in simple words, emotions may be universal, but emotional expression is often culturally influenced. Our culture teaches us many things. It teaches us how to behave. It teaches us what is acceptable and what is not. And it also teaches us something very important, and that is how to express emotions. For example, different cultures may have different expectations regarding crying in public, expressing anger, showing affection, physical contact, emotional restraint, and openly discussing personal feelings. So two people may experience the same emotion but express it differently because they have learned different emotional norms. These emotional rules often begin within the family. Imagine two children. One child starts crying after falling down. The parents say, "It's okay, tell me what happened." Here the child learns that expressing distress is acceptable. Now you imagine another child who repeatedly hears, "Don't cry, be strong." That child may gradually learn to suppress or hide emotional expressions. As adults, both individuals may experience sadness, but their expression of sadness may be different. This is how social learning and family environment can influence emotional expression. Let us understand this with another case. Consider Sakshi. Sakshi grew up in an egalitarian family where emotional communication was encouraged. She could openly discuss her feelings. If she disagreed with something, she could express her opinion. If she was upset, she could talk about it. Now, after marriage, she enters a more traditional family environment. Here, emotional expression is more controlled. She is expected to remain quiet in certain situations. Open disagreement wasn't encouraged. crying or expressing anger openly wasn't considered appropriate. Now, what did Sakshi start experiencing? Emotional conflict, stress, adjustment difficulties. From Sakshi's point of view, nobody understands my feelings. But from family's point of view, why does she express everything so openly? So what is happening here? It may not simply be an individual psychological problem. There is a mismatch between two emotional cultures. This is why understanding a patient's social and cultural background becomes very important in psychology and homeopathy. So what exactly does culture influence? Culture can influence what emotions are considered acceptable, how emotions should be expressed, when they should be expressed, where they should be expressed, and sometimes towards whom they can be expressed. For example, a person may freely express anger with close family members, but may suppress the same anger in front of elders or authority figures. So, emotional expression is not simply an internal process, it has a social context too. Now, let's take a clinical example of pain expression. Imagine two patients come to you with similar degree of pain. First patient says, "Doctor, I cannot tolerate this pain, I'm dying." And patient 2 says, "It's okay, doctor, I can manage." Now, can we conclude that patient 1 necessarily has more pain? Not necessarily. And can we conclude that patient 2 has mild pain? Again, not necessarily. The difference may be in their personality, upbringing, previous experiences, their social environment, or even cultural expectations regarding emotional expression. One person may be highly expressive, another may have learned to tolerate and suppress emotional expression. Therefore, as healthcare professionals, we should remember the expression of an emotion is not always an accurate measure of its intensity. We need to assess the patient more comprehensively. Now let's put everything together. Why do people experience and express emotions differently? Because emotions are influenced by multiple interacting determinants. First, neurophysiological factors, wherein the brain and body provide the biological basis of emotional responses. Second, cognitive factors. Here, our thoughts, interpretations, and appraisals influence what the situations mean to us. And the third, sociocultural factors. In this, our family, society, and culture influence how emotions are learned, regulated, and expressed. So we can remember it very simply. Brain, thought, and society. The brain provides the biological response, mind interprets the experience, and society shapes the expression. Of course, these factors don't work independently, they are continuously interacting with one another. And this is particularly important for us as homeopaths. When we see a patient expressing anger, fear, sadness, or anxiety, we should not immediately label that behavior. We should ask, what is happening biologically? What is the patient thinking? How is the patient interpreting the situation? And finally, what experiences, family environment, and cultural background have shaped this person's emotional expression? Because two patients may show the same symptom, but the meaning behind the symptom may be completely different. Emotions are not produced by one factor alone. They are the result of a continuous interaction between our biology, cognition, and socio-cultural environment. Our brain and body influence what we feel. Our thoughts influence how we interpret what happens. And our society and culture influences how we express what we feel. And that is why the same situation can produce different emotions in different people. And the same emotion can be expressed differently by different people. Understanding this difference is not only important for understanding psychology, it is essential for understanding our patients. Thank you.